This is my MotoGuzzi Mandello V100, plugged into its Optimate while it's parked up. And this morning I've just taken delivery of a set of hand guards. I went for the Motea hand guards because they have daytime running lights and indicators as well. So let's open the box and see what's in there. And as usual with these things, inside one box there's another box which is a lot smaller, and this is the actual product. Let's get this open. Hand guard, and a fitting kit in here. So first of all, I'm just going to test the electrics. Welcome to my rather cluttered workbench, but I've got a wire here. There are 3 leads on this. The black one is obviously the earth, the red one is the indicator, and it's got its own indicator flasher unit, interestingly. I assumed it would just be on or off, but it's not, it's set at flash. That's the red lead, and then the white lead is the daytime running lights, and boy are they bright. So that's pretty impressive. So the first thing to do is get this end cap off. 5mm hex bolt. And then off comes this end cap. And we have to replace it with this system on the Motea one. I've done a little bit of assembly here. It comes with these parts here. I've assembled them, but I'll just disassemble them to show you. So there's a fairly long bolt which goes through the end of the hand guard. This goes on the end, it goes on with it. There's this assembly here which has a little shaped bit so it can fit on the end of the guard. Then you slide this on, and the little nut, and that's going to go in there and expand. This is another adapter for a larger diameter handlebar, which I don't have, so that's going to go in there like that. So there's 4mm hex driver, and that piece there, conical driver with little wings on, so it slides into the spaces on this expansion device. So these are all nicely lined up now. That goes straight on, that slots in there, the flanges fit in there, and now that should just, as I tighten it, I'm just making sure that the clutch lever fits nicely there, and it does. And a little bit of tightening, and that's now beautifully tightened. So that's the handlebar end. And now we need to sort out fixing the inboard end. So the first thing to do now to fix this end of the handguard is to take the mirror off. To do that, I need a 17mm spanner to slacken the mirror off here. It's quite tight, but there's a little flat there and there, and I should, and that's loosen that off. Once the mirror's off, I've got a set of these 3, there's obviously 2 of each, but there's a short cranked one, a straight one, and a long cranked one, and somehow I've got to connect that onto that, and I think it looks like the long cranked one will fit best. So now I've got the handguard fitted, I'm going to put the mirror back. It's a good idea I'm reliably informed it's a good idea when you're assembling anything. Always put a bit of grease on. I've got some copper slip here. So just a little bit of copper slip on the threads. That way I know that it won't corrode and seize up. If I ever have to take the mirror off, it'll be easy. So on this side, it's a 14mm spanner, because when this nut that I'm tightening now seats, it won't seat quite as low down as it did originally, and so the mirror will be in the wrong place. So I'm going to have to adjust that anyway. So I've loosened the top bit. According to the service manual that I got, the mirrors are only supposed to be torqued down to 4 Newton meters. So there's a torque wrench set to 4 with a spanner on the end. And that's it. It's not terribly tight. On this mirror, that's 14mm and that's 17mm. Very logical. So let's set that. That looks about right. I can fine tune it once I'm actually on the bike. Again, this is supposed to be set to 4 Newton meters. That doesn't really feel tight enough, to be honest. So that moves too freely still. So I'm going to tighten it a little bit more. That's better, that's not going anywhere now. And that's that mirror replaced. And having sorted that, let's just slide this little rubber sleeve back on to hide all the mess. And there we go. Left-hand mirror done. And handguard. Now for the right. My 17mm spanner didn't fit there. It's actually a 19mm spanner you need, and I don't have a 19mm, but I've got a 3/4 inch, which is pretty much the same. So that's that release. What I'm going to do is provisionally fit that so I can get the position right. I'm going to have to adjust the mirror, because once the mirror's screwed back in, then it's going to be at the wrong height, and I'll have to change because the thickness of this stepped. Seems to sit nicely there. But that mirror is obviously now in a rather useless position. So let's tighten these little ones here. I want to make sure I'm pulling it slightly that way so that the lever, if you hear as I let go here, the end of the brake lever is just resting on the plastic, and I want to just put it away a tiny bit that way so that there's no contact. I don't think it'll do any harm if there is contact there, but for what it's worth, we might as well get rid of that. So having got the handguard fitted here, now I need to put the mirror back. And as I did on the left one, before I assemble it, I'm just going to put a little bit of copper slip on the threads, just to stop it corroding. And of course, because this has raised it slightly, it's not seating as far down, the mirror is in the wrong place. Now, the manual says that this should be tightened to 4 Newton meters, but when I tighten it to that much, it really doesn't feel very tight. And on the other side, when I tightened it to 4, tightened the locking nut to 4, the mirror still wasn't locked. So I'm going to tighten this to 8 now, see how that feels. And that 8 feels pretty tight. So now I need to take this off, slacken this. Now on this mirror, a different size for reasons known only to MotoGuzzi. It's one of those sort of lovely little quirks that you get with MotoGuzzis. The nuts, that's 14 and that's 17 on that side, but they're both 19 on this side. And since my metric spanner set stops at 17, I don't have a 19 spanner, but fortunately 3/4 of an inch from my imperial set does the job nicely. That's that. And now let's torque it. Slightly awkward to get this in, but that's 8, and that mirror is nice. That feels solid, so let's put the rubber sleeve back to cover it all, and there we are. Job's done. Now for the wiring.